Hello. Um, Today is January 16th, 2024, and I had a different idea for a video I wanted to do today, but I thought since it is a sad day, I thought I would come on and talk about something that means something to me, which is one of my favorite artists that I currently know about is David Lynch, and he passed away today. Um, and I thought I'd talk a bit about the things that he did that um, meant something to me, and the things I think this world will miss about the things he managed to do. And I think one of the biggest things that he taught me um, was the it's it's a hard thing with him because much like his films, he often gets across his ideas in ways that you can't really put into words. You can try and explain them away, but it, it's sort of it's sort of just a feeling you let wash over you. Like he has a very big body of works, but he has a very big body of work that I'm a big fan of, and I think in order to understand it, you kind of have to let it wash over you at points. You have to just engage with it and sort of pay attention to it, but without any expectations of making it make sense, which I think is probably one of the things that I feel I was taught the most with his work that he managed to do. Um, for example, before that, I'm not that old. I'm 20, and I got into him a couple of years ago. So I was just about finding the things I enjoy. Still am, but sort of branching out more with my music taste, film taste, stuff like that. And as a child, I was a really big fan of the show Gravity Falls, which you've ever seen. If you've ever seen it, it was very heavily inspired by Twin Peaks. And being the big fan of Gravity Falls that I am, I was like, maybe I should check out this show because, it's a show that people like my mum and my older relatives know very well. Um, because it had a very big cultural moment in the 90s. And, you know, I wanted to check out what influenced one of my favorite shows as a child. And when I first watched it, I did not get it. I'm like, this is really confusing me. Like, yes, I'm kind of enjoying it, but I this is unlike anything I've ever seen before. And I think it almost scared me in a way. Um, because it was such an off-kilter vibe that I was just not prepared for. Um, and I think that's one of Lynch's greatest achievements was he was very good at challenging an audience, I think, into coming into his worldview and his perspective. And people often throw around like Lynchian to describe things, but I think it was very uniquely his, and I can continue to chase this style that he developed as much as I like because I adore it. I want to find more exactly like that. But no matter how hard I try, I just can't find what is inevitably always going to be him. It's his work. His ideas they just they embody so much about him. And I think it's one of a kind to have somebody who can display that on such full force and uncompromising. Lots of people know about the clip where he's chatting about not wanting to make a scene short. And I think it's very true. I think he he gave me a lot to know about being uncompromising in my ideas and not taking shortcuts for other people. And I think that's a great life lesson in itself. Like, he's also a very big advocate for meditation, which I think is very interesting from his sort of standing. And I think the way he has such a intimate connection with the world around him and himself really really inspired me to sort of chase the same sort of ideas for myself. And yeah, I think when I came around to Twin Peaks, I really struggled to understand it, and I couldn't get into it like how I have with other shows. But once I managed to get through some of his films, I started with Eraserhead, and I was like, okay, I can see something here. And Elephant Man, I think managed to give me enough of the weirdness, but a straightforward plot to sort of get a picture of what I was getting myself in for. And I think the thing that very much convinced me to go back to Twin Peaks after I kept trying and trying was Mulholland Drive. Mulholland Drive is an intensely amazing film that well and truly is one of the best films ever made. And I think every one of his films could be a contender for that title. And once I got into Twin Peaks, I got into Twin Peaks. And I think many of the fans can tell you about that. Like, I can't really speak too deeply about his, you know, influence at the time because I'm very young. I haven't had as long as many of his other very dedicated fans have had to his body of work, but his it's just a brilliant show. Like I think it's so interesting to me how he managed to blend that, police procedural on and be a very big cultural touchstone for the 90s and influence so much coming forward that like it's very obvious. You can hear like Angelo's soundtrack in so much media from that point forward. I think what managed to be accomplished with that show is very deeply affecting for me, and I think also the world at large. I think that's what happens when you have a person who just very deeply trusts themselves. I think that's what you've got to do. You've got to trust yourself. And I think Lynch was very good at that. Obviously, I didn't know him, but it definitely seemed like he did. Um, in the same way that he does not owe explanations to anyone. He very famously would not do that. Like when people ask him to explain things, no, just flat out no. Um, and yeah, I think my favorite film of his is Fire Walk with Me. I'm a very big Fire Walk with Me fan. And I think coming from watching Twin Peaks season 1 and 2, which was some of my favorite TV I've ever watched, Fire Walk with Me was such a stark contrast, and it blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. Like I've never seen a film like it, and I think the doors that his work opened for me can't be understated. Like it's just great. Honestly, just amazing. Um, there's very specific moments in Fire Walk with Me that evoke such a sense of like emotions that I've never even like. I feel like I've never even tapped into before, and I think that's a very special thing to have. That is such in such an approachable and mainstream way. Um, yeah, and I think we have a lot to owe to him for the experimental nature of things that are allowed to happen today because of that. And yeah, I really want to check out more of his work outside of the sort of like film and TV. I wanna see his paintings. I want to hear more of his music, um, things like that, because I feel like I owe it to myself um, to get to know him better. I want to read his biography at some point. Um, but yeah, I think the world has lost a very, very important person today, and it'll be slightly worse off without him, but infinitely, infinitely better with the things that he's done. I I can't imagine. I just can't imagine some of the things that would have not happened without him, you know. And I know there's plenty of actors who adore him. I just read Kyle's Instagram post about him, and I think, yeah, it's just having someone so dedicated and such a passionate person directing even up until the very end, I imagine, um, is such an inspirational figure. And you sort of look at it and go, I can do that. I can do that. And even though Lynch has these very horrifying stories that are very, very, stark and grimy and disgusting at times, I think the main theme that runs through the body of his work is that sort of optimism, and I think there's always this weird melancholic sense of human spirit that runs through the things he made. And yeah, I think if you don't know about him, definitely engage with some of the things he's done. I'd highly recommend Twin Peaks. If you don't have the time for a whole series, definitely check out Blue Velvet or Mulholland Drive. Blue Velvet. Did even get onto that brilliant film. Mulholland Drive, if you want to throw yourself in the deep end, go for Inland Empire. Such an experience. Unlike any other film, really, ever. Insane that it even managed to exist, I feel like. And yeah. Or 17 minute short, What Did Jack Do on Netflix? I think that might. Was that the first thing I watched by Lynch? Oh, please don't tell me it was. Oh, it could have been. Oh no. Yeah. Oh god. Okay. Well, yeah. Rest in peace. It's one of my biggest inspirations. I'll be drinking some coffee, maybe, in memory. Yeah. So go watch some of his weather reports and feel a bit better about yourself and his unwavering optimism. Okay. Well, that's it for today. Hopefully, I'll be back with some more videos soon. This is fun. Be yourself and love yourself. I'll see you around.